Welcome top news today.
Donald Trump speaks with Paul Ryan during a meeting with Republican congressional leaders at the White House, June 6, 2017, by Joshua RobertsReuters. Even in the warmest of times, a president must bring tactical delicacy to his dealings with Congress. Readers of Michael Wolff's new book, Fire and Fury, which depicts the White House as the playpen of a maniac, will have to judge for themselves if Donald Trump is pulling off such subtleties. In the meantime, what do you do if you're Paul Ryan? What you've already been doing: praying for the rise of Mike Pence and working on what inspires you. Some of us love painting or ballet dancing. Paul Ryan loves entitlement reform. His work proceeds. This might seem crazy. Donald Trump vowed during his campaign not to touch entitlements, and back in 2011 he described Paul Ryan's efforts to cut Medicare as a death wish. Voters don't like entitlement cuts. Mitch McConnell doesn't want them. Ryan has already helped to lead his party to disaster with them. He helped lead an effort in 2005 to partially privatize Social Security, and the midterm elections that followed, while never auspicious for Republicans to begin with, brought Republican reversals even bigger than people had expected, flipping the House back to the Democrats. Having lived through the failed Social Security push in 2005, Ryan would later write, "I knew that the next president would need a mandate, not just a victory. Or maybe just the victory, after all. Why do this, then? To start with, love is love, and, as noted, Ryan loves entitlement reform. Lowering taxes and undoing much of what Democrats roared from the 1930s to the 1960s, Social Security and Medicare, foremost, is a long-standing dream. Other Republicans share that dream. Marco Rubio has a vision of reduced entitlements. So does Ted Cruz. Ryan is undoubtedly hopeful that he can prevent elderly rage by sparing anyone over, say, 40 from the cuts. When you're young, you're likelier to think you'll be so rich when old that you won't need a government payout anyway. Ryan also knows that Trump needs the support of House and Senate Republicans as the shark circle. Every day that a Ryan-allied Republican like Devin Nunes helps to keep Trump out of trouble during the investigations by Robert Mueller, turning a spotlight on the FBI, is one for which Trump is newly in the debt of Nunes. Nunes does not want to see harsh immigration measures, but, like Ryan, he does want to see entitlement reform. To the extent that pro-Ryan Republicans are helping to shield Trump from his enemies, Trump must do something to repay the favor. That means they get to determine legislative priorities. Finally, the things Trump would like to see done, on infrastructure, immigration, are things Ryan would like to see not done. Opposing Trump directly is a headache. Wasting Trump's time, on the other hand, is easy. Every minute that Republicans spend on a quixotic effort to change Social Security and Medicare as we know them is one in which they dodge consideration of infrastructure or immigration. Even if Trump takes the hard line on immigration negotiations and allows DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, to expire, it's better for Ryan if there's some other issue to command the spotlight. Plus, people believe Ryan is planning his departure from Congress this year anyway. Still, all of this is remarkable. There were always ample reasons to think Trump would be a disastrous president, but he nevertheless came to office on the basis of populist campaign promises. Trump's base cannot stand Paul Ryan. Steve Bannon, during the presidential campaign, viewed Ryan as the enemy, and, hard as it is to remember, Bannon and Trump did at one point agree with one another. Trump didn't have to run as hard or as rudely against the establishment as he did, at least once he'd secured the nomination, yet he stayed belligerent to the end. Trump's supporters weren't crazy to think he might follow through on some of his rhetoric and scramble party lines, at the expense of people like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. Converting the GOP, traditionally the home of the top-hatted, into a working-class party was always going to be a titanic effort, possible only with steely discipline and far-sightedness on the part of its leader. You could see ambitious Washingtonians preparing themselves for such a change in identity, but they needn't have bothered. Trump is either too indifferent to policy, too eager for the perception of wins, or too besieged by investigators to put up a fight against anything Republicans put on his desk. Worse for his voters, he has the credibility of someone who has talked the talk, meaning the less likely to notice when he betrays them on the walk. He's the unlikely vehicle for one last establishment heist. To be sure, failure is still the likeliest outcome for Ryan's new push. Republicans have little reason to think they're armed with a mandate to do something on which Trump didn't run and for which voters didn't vote. Entitlements such as Medicare are sufficiently sacred that even checkered-out voters might check back in. But Ryan can only be sure of that if he tries. Provided that Republicans can put pieces of paper on his desk, Trump seems willing to sign his name to them, and still capable of doing so, which, given recent revelations, is not to be taken for granted. Ryan might have to act fast. Full-screen photos 14 White House scandals we loved and lost in 2017. The first truth-bending claim of the Trump administration came just a day after the inauguration, when Sean Spicer introduced himself to the world by claiming that Trump's inauguration had drawn the largest audience ever, despite several photos showing a rather sparse crowd. Within a month, Spicer, once a well-respected journeyman flack in D.C. media circles, had cemented his reputation as Trump's own Baghdad Bob. Photo left by Lucas Jackson. Pull Getty Images. Right by Dual Samadap. Getty Images. Less than 2 weeks after he was inaugurated, Trump bungled a major campaign promise when he signed an executive order restricting travelers from 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States. The order sparked protests across the country and threw border control into chaos as it struggled to implement something. Federal courts immediately blocked the ban, declaring that it was an unconstitutional religious test meant to discriminate against Muslims, and pointed to Trump's own comments as proof. The ban continues to wind its way through federal court, continually hamstrung thanks to the way Trump and then-advisor Steve Bannon mangled its initial rollout. Photo by Stephanie Keith. Getty Images. Back when she was still known as Trump's maternal handler, the White House advisor drew scrutiny for kneeling on an Oval Office couch as casually as if she owned the place. She does not. She told the press that she had done so to snap a photo of Trump and a group of visiting presidents of HBCUs, and that it seemed to be the best angle. Photo by Brendan Smilovsky. Getty Images. The lawsuit against Trump University was the perfect allegory for a Trump presidency. The real estate billionaire stood accused of taking tens of thousands of dollars from regular folks, promising that his financial know-how would make them wealthy overnight, and then leaving them with nothing. Back in March, Trump settled 3 separate lawsuits, 2 class action suits and a fraud case, against the university for $25 million. Photo by Bill O'Leary. Washington Post via Getty Images. Of course Melania Trump, former model and Upper East Side inhabitant, would think nothing of wearing stiletto heels while preparing to visit a hurricane disaster zone. But after the internet slammed her for her Tundi fashion faux pas, a practice that goes back centuries, she emerged from Air Force One just hours later wearing a brand new pair of white sneakers and what appeared to be a men's button-up shirt. Photo by Alex Wong. Getty Images. North Korea's 3 generations of punishment law dictates that if a citizen commits a crime, they and their entire family will be sent to prison camps, and the next 2 generations of children will remain there. Somewhat similarly, Donald Trump declared that Steph Curry's refusal to attend a White House ceremony acknowledging the Golden State Warriors NBA championship meant that the entire team's invite was withdrawn. When NFL player Tom Brady's turn came for a White House invite, he sidestepped controversy by claiming an illness in the family. Photo by Maddie My. Getty Images. Of all the Trump administration officials who habitually use taxpayer dollars to fund the private jet travel, Tom Price, the former Health and Human Services Secretary, was the only one let go because of it. Granted, his plain use was egregious compared to the other cabinet members being investigated, whereas Ryan Zinke, Steve Mnuchin, and Scott Pruitt racked up a few $1,000s in dubious flights to their homes. And to the occasional donor party, Price spent $400 on flights to places like Nashville where his son lives, Philadelphia which is less than a 2-hour train ride from D.C., and St. Simons, a private island in Georgia where he and his wife happen to own $1 million property. Such graft somehow infuriated Trump, who told reporters that he was not happy with Price's plain profligacy. Photo by Jabin Botsford. The Washington Post via Getty Images.